And tonight we're going to talk about 1,001 ideas how to use board games to stimulate your child's language. My name is Michelle Auger. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I'll be joined by my colleague Elisa Bucarel, who's also a speech language pathologist at the Commission Scolaire de Laval at Laval School Board. Okay, first, before we start, just to explain quickly the rules in the Zoom reunion. So you have the Zoom's toolbar, and it should be below your screen. And we would ask you to turn off your microphone and your camera to your video. Since it's going to be recorded and on the site, we try to eliminate the people so we can't identify anybody. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can either ask them in the chat window, which should be in the little icon converser or chat. I don't know if it's in English for you. And you can also ask it by raising your hand, but not literally, but the blue hand that is in the icon participants. Here it's written the chat converser, but it's in the participants. So my colleague can see if you have any questions, and I'm going to be sure to stop between each slide. So if you have questions regarding the slide, we can answer it immediately. The vignette should be about 45 minutes. We have like 25, 30 minutes for the presentation, and we give 15 minutes for the questions approximately. A little bit of warning concerning the presentation. We would ask that the questions should be, and the discussion should be more of a general nature and not child specific. Like I said, since it's going to be recorded, we don't want to identify any children in the recording. And these vignettes really have been created to give you some general ideas how to stimulate your child, the language of your child, and the communication. So, the topic for tonight is playing board games with your child, or any games really. And the intention we have is, what can we teach our kids while we are playing the board games? And how can we use the games we already have at home without buying anything else in the store? So we already have so much things at home that we can use to stimulate the language and the communication. So first up, we have the card games. If you have a card deck at home, you can use that, and it can be used to learn the sequence numbers from 1 to 10. It's really useful. Just before talking about the other things, I just want to show you a quick game. It's called 7 Up, and it's really useful to learn the sequence. So when you place the cards, you each pick one. You only take the cards from ace to 7, and the ace being the 1, since there's no 1 in cards. So we place the cards like that. Each one gets 7, and we have to pick in the middle the cards. If it's a 4, you put it on the 4th position of your sequence. So the child really learns where the 4 goes. So he has to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it goes there. And then he picks the other card. If it's a 2, he has to put it in the 2nd position. So the first one to complete his sequence is the winner. And you can also play from 1 to 10, ace to 10. So it can be really useful. Also, I think everybody knows the battle game that you can play with cards. This game is really useful to learn the concept bigger, biggest, smallest, equal. Those are all concepts that are useful in mathematics at school. So when you play, if I draw a 5 and my kid draws a 4, you can ask the question, which one has the biggest number, and which is the smallest. And is it equal? Oh no, it's not equal, because 5 is bigger. So who wins the hand? The one who has the biggest number. You can also do a game with formulating a mathematic hypothesis. Yes, you can do that. So you turn a card and then you predict if the next number is going to be bigger or smaller. And in school, the probability is really important. The kids learn really early, like in first grade, it, to make a prediction. So they can say if it's an ace, there's no probability that the number is going to be smaller. So he can say, oh, it's sure to be bigger. So we can play a little game like this, just guessing game. So like I said, there's the game 7-Up. And also, if you want to work on math, you can do a pyramid with 16 cards, sorry. And you use the aces, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And you can count 1 plus 4 equals 5. And then you take off 2 cards, always when the total is 5. You continue the game until there's no more moves to make or you complete the pyramid. You can also use this with cards from ace to 9, so you can work on the addition up until 10. So if it's up to 9, like 9 plus ace equal 10. Is there any question for the card games section?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Next is the dice. Also an object that we have usually in our home. So with the dice, you can learn to recognize the faces of the dice without counting the dots, which is something really important, that the kid just by looking at it is able to say, oh, that's a 6, that's a 5. Often when we play board games, they learn to recognize the dice. So to work on that, you can associate a quantity to the face, either by saying it orally or by writing the number, and you can try to associate. You can do memory games. You can just draw it and he has to pick up the right number that goes with the dice. You can also work on additions with the dice, like with the cards. You draw 2 dice and you add both numbers for simple additions. And if your child is able, you can also add the numbers obtained after several rolls for more complex additions. Like in the game Yahtzee and Yum, it's really interesting. I don't know if you have that at home. You can download, I think, the pages to do it. And like if you have to have the most ones. So sometimes there are 4, so 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, or 4 times 1. You can also do multiplications depending on your child's level, of course. Again, you can form a hypothesis. So you can roll the die and make a prediction if the next die has more chances to be bigger or smaller, like with the cards. And the last one is one that I love personally. You can do vocabulary work. So you choose a category, example, animals, and you roll the die and you see how many words you have to tell from this category. Example, I rolled 5 and I have the category animals, so I have to name 5 animals. So elephant, giraffe, monkey, dog, cat. And we can help our child if it's difficult for them by giving them clues or the first sound, or sometimes we tell them to search in a place, like in the zoo, which animals do you see? So it helps them to choose the right words. So for the dice, that would be it. If you have any questions, I'm gonna go after to the next section.
I'm good.
Okay.
It's nice actually ideas about the dice.
Yeah, it's a simple object, but we can do many things with
exactly. I'm so surprised, you know, like.
That's the goal of this presentation, is to use stuff that we have at home and to think a little bit outside the box. And next up, we have the hunt and seek, sorry. hide and seek. Sometimes it's in the form of a book. Sometimes it's more like cardboards and pictures that we pick. So it depends what you have at home. You can work for observation abilities, either in the books or in the cards. It helps a lot for the vocabulary because on the cards there are words, but you can go beyond that. And example, if you draw an object and like it's a toolbox, you can ask, what can we do with the toolbox? Where do we see the toolbox? So you can expand the vocabulary of your child. Also to describe the image. So where do we find this image in the card? The kids usually just say, oh, there, there it is. So we try to give them models to be more precise, like, oh, the toolbox is behind the car, besides the wheel. So it's important to add words and complete sentences so we give our child the correct model. And the more precise we are, the more precise they're going to be afterwards. You can also, when you pick, you draw your image, you hide it, and you can make a riddle and give clues. So your child has to guess which card you picked. So example, find a sharp object under the wheelbarrow. So now he has to find it, and he has to guess which word it was. So it's a little bit more difficult than just seeing the picture. Like I said, you can work on the understanding, the comprehension of questions. So how, where, you use the picture that you drew, and you ask, how is it? Where do you use it? Who uses it? Like the toolbox, who uses that? Is it a doctor or a mechanician? Also, you can use that to work on the reading and the writing abilities with the image drawn. So you can either count the syllables, toolbox. I think in English there is less syllables than in French. You can identify the first sound. So if it's toolbox, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to, if it's a sound more continued, like a snake, you hear more than in toolbox, so it's easier to hear it. You can also identify the last sound or a word that rhymes. Like toolbox, we can find a word that rhymes with that, like fox. So we can play with words. It's really important for reading and writing. So all these things helps the child to learn to read and write. Because when we try to write, we have to listen to the sounds in the words so we know how to write them. And we can also write the word. So if he picks a snake, you can listen to the word. Okay, snake, I hear s. Which letter does this? Which letter do I use to make s? Oh, it's the S. Sometimes there's multiple letters for the same sound, so we can explore that with our child. We can say, oh, there's the S, there's the C, there. So it depends. You can also invent or write a sentence using the word. So this is important because in school they ask often the kids to write the sentence. So with their vocabulary words, they have to invent sentences. So it's a good ability to have either in oral or in writing. Are there any questions regarding the hide and seek?
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank
excellent.
you.
Now we have the course games. Those are games maybe you don't have at home, but I think Snakes and Ladder is a really popular one. We put some examples, but you may have others. So Candyland, Croque Carotte, which is it's pretty popular in French. You can use... So when you play the game, you have to work on using complete sentences. So you can describe your actions, like I roll the die. It's my turn. It's your turn. I fell down the hole. So we describe what we do. Sometimes when we want the kids to use the pronoun you, we can ask them to tell us what we do, and we tell them what they do. So they can hear the word you. It depends on what we want to work on. You can also work on math concepts, like if there's a die, you count the number of spaces when you move up, when you move down. You can learn math vocabulary, like I move up, I move back, this one's bigger, this one's smaller. Sometimes in snakes and ladder, you can do additions and such subtractions depending on, again, your chance level. Like if it's 25 and you have to go back 5 spaces, so you count back, you can do 25 minus 5. It goes 20, so you can read the number on the space. Also very important, you can work on social abilities, which is always fun to learn for our kids. Learn to lose and learn to win the right way. Some adults may have difficulties again, but it's really important for them to learn, so not to cheat. When it's your turn, it's really important to respect the game rules and respect the turns. That's how they learn how to do, and we are a big role model for them. So if you're not a sore loser, if you're a good loser, they're gonna copy a little bit what you do. Again, with the cards and the dice, often in these types of games, you have some cards, some dice, so you can work on the same math concepts. And this is headbands. This is the game, but you can make one at home too. You don't have to buy this game. The principle is to use a picture or a written word, and the person who has the picture has to guess it. So you have to put it either on your forehead. For students, I often put them in the back. We just taped it on their shirt so they don't see the picture that they have, and they have to guess what they have. So they have to ask questions, and you can work on the categorization, because you have to ask a question about the category that it's in. So example, if my picture is an elephant, but I don't know because it's in my forehead or in my back, so I have to ask questions to guess what it is. And I can ask questions, so we can model to the kids what kind of questions that they can ask. So you can ask, is it an animal? Is it an object? So you begin by guessing the category, so it's easier afterwards to guess what you have on your head. And then you can ask questions about different concepts, like, is it big? Is it small? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it spiky? So all these types of concepts are going to help your kids, and formulating questions, because when you ask a question, you have to learn how to say the question. It's not always easy to say, where do we see it in the farm? Do we see it? So it has to be a yes and no answer. Also, it helps verbal reasoning and memory a lot, because as you get clues, you have to put all those clues together to guess what you have. Like I said, you can also write the words, so you can work on word reading. There's also an app on, I think, iPad and maybe the Samsung and the other tablets. It's called Heads Up. So you put your phone on your forehead and the word appears, and then you put it back like that. So if you don't have any games like that, or you don't want the trouble of doing it, you can take the app. Do you have any questions regarding that?
No, I'm good. Actually, I have majority of those games. Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to practice with her all the time.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah.
And finally, we have the drawings and the crafts. So like home projects. This is really interesting, because when you do a coloring with your kid, like, it can be a picture already two color, We can give instructions to the kid, like color the cat in green, so you work on colors. You can work on concepts when you ask color the third hat. We can also ask them to give us instructions, because it's always more interesting for the kids, not just getting instructions, but also giving them to their mom and dad, so they feel like they play the teacher a little bit, and they work on their sentence for formulation, the formulation of their sentences, and the pronunciation. So it works both ways, in understanding and in expressive. You can also draw. If it's not a picture to color, you can draw. Ask example, draw a sun in the top corner of your paper. Draw a cat under the table. Maybe cat is difficult for them. Draw a circle. It depends of the ability. Even for the adults, it's not always easy. If you do a craft, you can also say cut the third tree and paste it to the left of the car. So you can work on different spatial concepts. On, under, in front, behind, all those words are really important for school afterwards in French and in math. The sequence too. First, you color the cat, then you color the sun. So you can work on the sequence and remembering more items too. So the memory can be also worked in with that. And like I said, the vocabulary, big, small, long, short. So color the big cat. If there are many cats, he has to choose the right one. The verbs too, like when you describe, okay, you're gonna cut, you're gonna glue, you're gonna color, circle, underline. And you can work with different themes for the vocabulary. If it's Easter, all the vocabulary behind this theme. When you do a craft or a drawing, you name the word. So in Easter, it's the rabbit, the eggs, the color, also a pastel. So it can be interesting. And oral expression, like I said, the kids can give you instructions, but also to reproduce his drawing. For this one, I think it's important that there's a screen so you don't see the drawing. It's more natural, because if you see, your kid's gonna say, just look at it and do the same. They don't have to give you the instructions. So if you can put a cereal box or anything to put a screen between you, so he has to give you the instruction. For example, draw a square in the middle of your paper. So it's important to be really precise in the instruction that he's going to give you. If he's not enough precise, you have to tell him. Example, if he says draw a square, where do I go draw a square? Is it in the middle, in the top, in the bottom? A big one, a small one? So you can add some precision to your child's speech. And that's it. Do you have any questions for us?
No, but yeah, thanks first of all about the ideas. Actually, I have, as I mentioned, that I have a bunch of those games, and sometimes I feel I used to do the games and me myself get so bored. So this is exactly. So I think it's nice to find another way to use the cards, as you mentioned. I'm gonna try the 7 Up. I like it. And about having like partition between me and between my daughter, and try to tell her some instruction to follow. And this is really nice because she has a trouble also on the top of the speech therapist. She's seeing in the memory thing, so I want to just make sure it's to encourage her to do stuff. Yeah,
excellent. Now we're happy.
Very nice. I like it. Yeah, I really like it. Thank you so much for your time, for having the patience to prepare all that. So
you're welcome. It was our pleasure to have you tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, oh yeah, at the end we put a little bit of resources if you want to go check this out. So it's Asha. There's a bunch of stuff about activities you can do to
Oh,
help
okay.
with language. And Prubri games, there are games specifically designed to help develop language, and they are bilingual. They are in French and English.
Okay. Okay, actually, my issue in 3 languages, not only 2.
Oh wow!
So it's yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's yeah.
And that's another thing that I wanted to add is that if you work on these in English or in any other language, that's okay, and they're going to transfer as long as the child has one solid, strong language. So you can definitely work at home in the language that you feel most comfortable in.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying so hard to stick with one language because it's sometimes hard. She's more exposed for French. Me, I'm not French, but there is another language,
Yeah.
Arabic. So it's yeah. This is what I'm trying to stick only one language to let my daughter to master this language. So
Yeah, it's good. You have to give her the best model. So if you're more comfortable in that language, it's important. She's gonna sense that too.
yeah, true. You're right. Thanks for the tips, guys. I really liked. I'm gonna use them tonight. She's still awake.
Yeah, it's Friday night.
Exactly. Yeah, every night is Friday night for her now. So yes. So I appreciate all the effort, guys. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward if there's any other sessions. Will be